Hello everybody, my name is Serge Ross. I'm the Vice President of the Forum of Incident Response and Security team, also known as FIRST. In my daily work, I work for a company called Open Systems, which is a managed security provider, and allowed me to invest my time into this training.
Hi, my name is Chris Gibson. I'm the newly appointed Executive Director of FIRST, so this is my day job and a job I'm very excited to do. Previous history, I spent sort of 20 years or so in financial institutions, doing incident response, doing computer forensics, doing information security and so on. I've been associated with FIRST for over 15 years. I was on the board for 10, so I know this organization quite well. I then moved into I built and ran the CERT UK, the UK government's National Computer Emergency Response Team. Did that for 3 years. I then spent two or 3 years in industry, and now I've joined FIRST.
Can you tell us a little bit more about what FIRST is and what its goals are and why it is important?
So FIRST is a forum. It's a place where people can come together and talk about their problems, their challenges, their issues, their incidents, and so on, and learn from each other. It started way back in the early 90s when we had the very first computer incidents, and people realized that you could be very secure in your little enclave, your organization, but if another organization has a problem and is attacking you, be that on purpose or be that just because they've had a problem, you need to be able to approach someone else. So we started building this network of computer teams around the world. I think we had 100 teams sometime in the early 2000s. We're now at nearly 500. So it's growing fast. It's growing very, very successfully. First is, well, we have 4 main aims. The first aim is to make sure that members can find an incident response team around the world when they need it. So that's the piece where we're trying to grow teams in countries that don't have teams, in areas that are underdeveloped and so on. So we really want to push that message so that if I have a challenge coming from a country where there is no one I know, I can work through another team who's in that region or in that country. So building the community, building the relationships, having that trust relationship with those people. We want to make sure that incident response teams talk the same language. If a team or organization is being attacked, they need to be able to talk to another team, possibly in another time zone, in another region, in another language, in a manner that both understand. We need to make sure that so we're not miscommunicating and so on. So common taxonomies, similar understandings, and understandings of what teams can do. Some teams in some countries have very different powers and responsibilities to others. So that's a really useful thing to know when you're dealing with an incident. We want to help them get better. We want to help them focus on their decision making. We want to help them with tools. We want to help them with tactics and techniques to make it easier to deal with incidents. As the internet explodes in size, we have more and more incidents. Many of these incidents are not, actually where someone is attacking you. They're misconfigurations. They're badly configured things. We want to be able to automate those so we can make that more automatic. So that's really something we're focusing quite heavily on. And then finally, we want to make sure that our seniors understand what we're doing. Too many times we find an incident response team is hard at work, and the C-level suite, the CEOs, the CXOs, whatever you want to call them, are not really aware of what's going on. And we've seen in the last few years companies brought to their knees by computer incidents. You can think Target, you can think Equifax. There's a lot of these organizations. Yahoo lost how many billions on their valuation. These seniors need to understand that these things can happen, so there's an educational incidents can happen. But there's also, you need to invest in the people who can fix these problems for you. Part of that 5 pieces of the information security process, which is essentially identify, do you know everything you've got? Protect it. Is everything as secure as you can make it? Can you detect incidents? Can you respond to incidents? And then can you recover from an incident? And we're firmly focused at the second half of that. Can you detect and can you respond and recover, react to those things? And do you have a process? Do your seniors know what to do when something bad happens and it hits Twitter and it hits the press and it's on the web? That's a real challenge and that's really interesting. So we need to help educate them, but we need to work that from the bottom to the top.
So we mentioned the word security a couple of times. It's also in the title of this video series, the Security Bootcamp. But security also seems to make our lives so difficult. Like we have to update all the time. The VPNs slow our services and communication down, and the firewalls don't allow us to do what we want to do, and the web proxies prevent us from going to websites that we need to go. Why is it so important? It just seems to make our lives much more difficult?
It's a really, really good point. And I think, to be fair, it's a point that we, as an industry and as a profession, we've not really managed well over a number of years. Yes, technically we can do all sorts of things to make ourselves more secure. And there's a good number of reasons why we do that. We talked earlier about the fake news, the bad software, the misconfigurations and so on that can affect what you do. We build in that security to make sure those things don't happen, or we minimize or mitigate those things happening. We also have a significant amount of regulatory pressure. If you're in the EU or if you deal with EU citizens, there's the GDPR regulation that came in last year is very strong on you can't misuse people's personal data. So to use an example, if you can't do something on your work computer, do not send it to your home computer to do it, because your home computer will not have those protections. And at that point, you're putting your corporation or your organization at significant risk, financial and regulatory, of what you're doing. So there's a reason for why we do this, or there should be. There should be a balance between the amount of risk an organization takes, the amount of technology it's prepared to invest in. But the piece that we typically miss is our users, our end users. We don't educate them as to why we're doing this. We are doing this to protect you, to make sure that someone doesn't hack into your computer and spend your money, or hack into your computer and send emails that look like they're coming from you, or to make sure that nobody manipulates data and pretend it's you. So that could be really impactful to you. We do it to protect the organization. The regulations that are in place now are frankly significant. You can lose 4% of your global annual turnover if you do something really, really bad. That's a life-changing experience for any organization. So we're doing it to protect the organization. But we're generally doing it to protect the data that's on there. The data might be my data you're processing. I want to know you're processing it safely. So it's a balance across them, but the end user is the user on the computer is vitally important, and we need to do this educational process. Serge, what are you trying to get out of this?
So in the security industry, we kind of tend to focus on the bad things in the internet. It's dangerous, and you shouldn't be doing this, and there's all these scary people out there that are after you. And it's true, they're all out there, but the internet is actually a great place. It allows us to do things that weren't possible 10 years or 15 years ago. We can have access to vast amounts of information. We can communicate with people across the planet at virtually no costs. We have information at our fingertips. It gives us information about our environment and so on. And we want to keep this that way. We want to make sure that the internet stays useful, that it is a place where you can actually go without being threatened, without having to fear to lose everything. And in this training, we would like you to understand how the internet works, what are its shortcomings, and what you need to do to kind of deal with these shortcomings so you actually really will continue having a very positive experience with the internet. We do hope you enjoy the training. We are eager to hear your feedback. For an improved next version, please talk to us and enjoy the training. Thanks.